Good afternoon. Man, we're excited about leaning in on our second preseason opportunity. A couple reasons why. First, it's a home game weekend. We're always excited about familiarizing ourselves with Acrisure and some of the good things and some of the challenges that come along with it. One of the challenges is defensive communication. Our home game venue is an asset to us in that regard, but it does present some challenges from a defensive communication perspective. And so that's one of our little agendas, if you will, in preparation for this game, making sure that we respect that component. We get one opportunity in the preseason to play at home, and so defensive communication in the midst of that is going to be big for us. Also, just familiarizing ourselves with the itinerary on the home game schedule, hotel, things of that nature, dealing with traffic. There's a lot of new Steelers, and so we don't take any of those things for granted. We need that exposure. It'd be interesting to watch the group push through it and how they remain focused on what's really important, ultimately, their play in the midst of all of that. Man, it's a reasonable opportunity to expect us to be better in all areas because of last week's exposure. Not only last week's exposure, but last week's film study and then adjustments in terms of what we focused on this week in practice, some things that we need to do better. Individually and collectively, we'll highlight our agenda in an effort to allow these guys to show what they're capable of and their ability to get better in designated areas and improve. Just like last week, man, as I sit here today, we expect to play all healthy players. Three guys that are probably not going to play just based on their level of health as we sit here right now is Larry Ogunjobi. Trey Norwood, although he has been practicing in a partial capacity, we'll probably wait till next week on him. And Nate Herbig has missed a few days, and it's probably not appropriate to put him in uniform. I am excited about seeing some guys play this year for the first time, guys that we held out last week, guys like Cam and TJ and Minka and Pat P, Joey Porter Jr., Keanu Neal, KZ are some guys who didn't play last week, who are scheduled to play, and looking forward to watching those guys, particularly the guys that are new to the NFL like Joey or new to us like Keanu and Pat. I'm really excited about seeing the specialists work. Last week we played the younger new specialists. This week we're playing the guys who have Steeler experience. Looking forward to watching those guys execute. Specifically in the return game, really interested in Anthony McFarland as a kick returner and Calvin Austin as a punt returner. We focused their efforts last week, man, on their offensive contributions, particularly in the first half of the game. We're really going to be interested in their special teams contributions, those two in particular, this week, along with, obviously, their offensive responsibility, but looking for those guys to show their capabilities in that space if given an opportunity. Those are just some of the reasons why we're excited. Obviously, we're doing a little bit more game planning. Last week we had 1 day of prep in preparation for play. This week we'll have 2 days, and so it's reasonable to expect the guys to display more understanding relative to this week's challenge, to play with more fluidity, for us to do a few more things schematically because of that additional day. And so all of those things I'm excited about seeing from the group. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, when you got here, you said you better be open to being pleasantly surprised in this environment. Were you?
I was surprised on a lot of levels positively, but I'm open to it, and I think that's what this process needs to be about in this environment. Sure, we have a hardcore plan. Sure, there's some things that we want to see, but we better be open to adjustments to give the group what it is it needs, and we better be open to being pleasantly surprised or to see the unexpected. We got 90 guys here. We're trying to take to 53, and so we can't have too many preconceived notions in the effort to make sure that this process is a fair one.
Mike, somewhat along those lines, when you got here, you talked about that feeling in the air that you had, the vibe, and how has that manifested itself? A lot of guys have talked about that repeatedly.
I just think the individuals bring it. We've been talking a lot about not making things mystical. We're responsible for the creation of a great day individually if we're positive contributors to it. And so We're trying to take the mystique out of some of those things. We're not hoping that we're going to have a great day or hoping that there's going to be a positive vibe. We're owning our roles in the creation of it, just like we own our roles in the creation of victory. We're not rabbit's foot type people when it comes to creating victory. And so that's been some of the things that's been on the front of our radar as we've developed as a team in this process.
Mike, Omar and Andy have discussed the depth that they've been able to add to this roster. How have you seen that play out here over camp?
You know, I'm not looking at it from a depth perspective right now. I'm just really interested in giving the 90 guys that are here an opportunity to show what they're capable of, and in the midst of that, it will be revealed to us. We respect all 90. We're looking forward to them stating the case for themselves, and obviously we feel good about the 90 that we have, that is highly competitive, and that creates the depth in which you mentioned.
Mike, I know focusing on the details is a big thing for you and this team. How have you seen these guys kind of do that every day and zone in on getting those details right?
I think it's just it's a continual process. We cannot tire. We'll be continually trying to put that 8 pounds in the 5-pound bag, we like to say. It is details. When it's good on good, and everybody knows what they're doing, it's varsity on varsity, what's the determining factor for success? Ultimately, man, it's technique relative to the positions that you play, and it's the detailed understanding of assignments that allows you to play fast and fluid, light on your feet, communicate, and all of those things.
Mike, how much longer will you play Kenny in the first-team offense, or will you?
We'll play it by ear. I acknowledge that those guys are going to play. I'll also acknowledge that they're going to play more. But what that is, as I stand here right now, I'd be lying if I gave you a direct answer.
What do you want to see from Kenny in this outing?
Just like I mentioned at the outset, just like I talked about the entirety of the group, it's reasonable to expect them to be better in all areas given last week's experience, in-stadium experience. The process by which we go through the tee-up performance is something that we want to capture and master. And so this is the second time for us to do it, and so it's reasonable to expect that performance floor to be higher.
You obviously don't have any control over who you get to face in the preseason, but are you excited about the challenge of your defense getting to face Josh Allen?
Like you mentioned, we don't have control, so whoever shows up and plays, we'll face them.
That approach you talked about a little bit ago, does that explain why there haven't been any fights or skirmishes, anything we've seen?
You know, we appreciate tough guys, but this is not an MMA team that we're putting together, and so fights don't help us win football games. And so we've been talking very black and white in that manner, and I appreciate the guys' willingness to make that posture or that position real by adhering to it.
Mike, what have you seen from Kenny in his first camp as a starting quarterback?
Man, I just like the way he's communicating with people. I like the way he comes every day ready to compete. You know, he's not overanalyzing the big picture too much. He's just trying to, you know, play his role in the creation of a great day and being there. I think other people, by virtue of his position, get their vibe off of that, and his ability to remain singularly focused and hyper competitive, I think, is an asset to our unit and to our team.
Mike, we've seen Cam and TJ have just this kind of goofy relationship in some ways. How do they push each other, maybe bring out the best in each other on and off the field?
You know, I watch it. Obviously, I'm not in their relationship, but I appreciate it and I watch it. And I just think that both guys are teed up comfortably for their roles in their relationship. Cam is a big brother in his real life, and TJ's a little brother in his real life. And I just think that they're comfortable in the ways that they come together on that premise. And obviously, there's mutual respect, and TJ's a grown man and an elite professional. But their dynamics, I just think it's very comfortable for them because of who they are in their personal lives from a brother perspective.
Like, is there any potential long-term concern with Ogunjobi or Herbig?
None.
Coach, in this game and even in the next week's game, is this the chance for those fighting for the third string quarterback to show what they can do to earn the spot?
Man, everybody's fighting for everything. I always smile when you guys try to identify battles. Man, they're all battles. We're not assuming anything. I respect every man here and what they're pursuing, and so that's just one of the many opportunities that's being sorted out through this process.
You guys have dodged some raindrops and things of that nature out here. Can you talk a little bit about what your field crew means to this environment?
Yeah. Coop and company have done an awesome job. First presenting some quality fields for us, but also working hard to maintenance them and keep them upright as we tear them down. I can't say enough about the service that they've provided, and there have been some challenges, particularly early on. We had some rain days and so forth. We had to put together a tarp crew. Man, we just respect all the roles departmentally that make this thing go, and that field group is significant.
What have you seen and or liked about Nick Herbig? Has he been everything that you thought when you picked him?
He has. Obviously, you know, we like doing business with Wisconsin, man. Just schematically, the things that they were doing defensively under their former coordinator, Jim Leonard, were things that were very similar to what it is that we do. And so there's less speculation there in terms of your vision of what he might be capable of doing. It's the same thing that made us comfortable when we drafted TJ and Loudermilk and Benton. And so there's very little speculation schematically. There's a lot of carryover. And so I can't tell you that I'm overly shocked at what we're seeing from him. It's very much in line with what we saw on Wisconsin video.
Mike, what did you see from the tape with Broderick Jones from the game on Friday, and how much is he pushing Dan?
I thought he did a really nice job for a first time out. I thought he played with energy. I thought he played with finish. And oftentimes when a guy's in his first opportunity and he's worried about assignment, some of those things are lost. And so it's really good to see him play with physicality and finish, and it's reasonable to expect him to take a significant jump this week and into the next, and what happens over the course of the next 2 weeks probably will determine that component of the discussion that you mentioned.
No coincidence he played more than any offensive player.
I'm surprised by that.
The way you've been able to use your inside linebackers, that give you kind of a lot of flexibility and some mixing and matching of things you.
It's just really a component of today's game, man. We got some varsity inside linebackers and of varying skill sets, and so, man, we're just excited about dividing the labor up on a week in and week out basis to highlight that skill set and position ourselves to play really good defense. Got respect for the contributions of all of those guys that have been working in that group, and AC has been doing an awesome job of coaching them.
Najee Harris had a Liz Frank injury here last year. Have you done anything differently about the way you approach his workload or what you're doing for him this
Not
season?
in response to that injury that you mentioned. It's just about the maturation of him as a professional and giving him what he needs. We don't live in fear regarding injury or injury history.
What did you feel that he needed during camp this year as compared to his first couple of years at camp?
Less physical reps required the older he gets, and that's nothing groundbreaking or earth-shattering about that.